Hello and welcome to the Jersey Skills Show virtual session. We're from Jersey Sport and we've just come to speak to you a little bit about how we got into our careers and a little bit about Jersey Sport. I just wanted to remind you that you can ask questions and we'll be taking questions in at the end. So if you've got any questions for us, then please do note them on. So I'm Kirsty de Grishy and I'm the head of Move More Jersey.
I'm Laura Riley. I head up the cycle programme and school events.
My name's Elliot Fowle, Children's Schools Manager.
So what we thought we'd do is just tell you a little bit about our roles, a little bit about what we do and how we got there. But I think the really important thing to say is that at Jersey Sport, we're a really diverse organisation. We have quite a few different parts of the organisation. We have teams that are working in schools, we have teams working in the community, out in community gyms, and working alongside health, in the prison, with people with disabilities. So as you can imagine, that takes a lot of different people with a lot of different skills. And within our team alone, in our office, for example, we have someone who's from marketing, so they've done a background and a degree in marketing, haven't come through a sports channel. Again, our head of schools and sports, he's got a degree in maths, previously worked with the Royal Yachting Association, but hasn't necessarily been in sport his whole life. And there's many other examples, and these guys will go on to talk a little bit about their roles. So just to start a little bit with myself, I am from Jersey. I went to St Peter's School. I then went to Jersey College for Girls, and then I went to an international school called the United World College of the Atlantic in Wales, where I did the International Baccalaureate. So I had a bit of a different school experience, did the IB, and when I was at sixth form, I really wanted to be a doctor. And I was absolutely adamant that I was going to be a doctor, and that's what I was going to do. But actually, I realised as time went on that I probably wasn't going to get the grades that I needed to do that. And I started talking to someone who was a physiotherapist. And I realised that all the things that I wanted to do was actually around helping people to get better and helping come alongside people and kind of better their lives and help them to improve themselves. And actually, I realised that that was probably better doing that as a physiotherapist. So I finished my International Baccalaureate. I have got a history of teaching quite a lot of sailing. I used to teach quite a lot of sailing at St Oben's Port. And so I decided to take a year out and went and enjoyed the Caribbean, and I went out to Greece, where I ran a sailing school and sailed across the Atlantic on a 50-foot yacht. So yeah, so that was a little bit different. And then I settled down and went to university in Cardiff, where I did a degree in physiotherapy. So you might ask, how on earth did I get to being where I am now, which is heading up Move More? But Move More is actually all about helping people to get active. It's about helping people who maybe otherwise wouldn't want to otherwise engage in activity, engage in it. And it's also about helping people who maybe have been through injury, who've maybe been through physiotherapy, might have had a heart attack and so on. And it's about how can we help islanders just help them get a little bit active. So little did I think when I started my physio degree in Cardiff, where I wanted to be a sports physiotherapist, and conveniently volunteered as a masseuse for the local rugby club to get the skills I needed, of course. Little did I think that I'd end up in a sporting organisation, because I really thought I was going to be a sports physio and working with clubs. Actually, what happened, and you often find this with physiotherapists, is they go off to college and you have to train in all the different fields and you have to work in hospitals in all the different areas. And actually, when I got to working in the hospitals, I loved working with patients who had neurological conditions and respiratory conditions, and kind of rehabilitation. So actually, that's what I ended up doing. I worked in Wales for a couple of years, and then I was offered a job in Jersey. I actually ran the hydrotherapy pool and the gym initially in here, and then I ended up on the medical wards here at the hospital, where I worked a lot in intensive care. I worked with quite a lot of brain injury patients and did a lot of neuro and a lot of respiratory stuff, which actually has been perfect for my role now, because actually I really understand about people that have maybe been very unwell and need to kind of get going again. After that, I then moved to hospice, where I worked for the last 10 years. And there I headed up the therapy side of things. So I was the manager of the physiotherapists, the complementary therapists, and the nurses that ran the day services. So I ended up doing a lot of those kind of things. And then in May last year, I had a complete career change and moved to Jersey Sport. And but it absolutely pulls on all of the different skills that I've learned over all the years as a physiotherapist. It pulls on the skills of my passion for sport and active living myself. It also understanding people's journey of where they've been unwell, or maybe they aren't able to feel that they can engage in physical activity or sport. They don't see themselves as sporty. That's why we've got Move More, and that's why we've got people working out with those kind of people. And so that's kind of how I got to be where I am at Jersey Sport. And so although I have been very active all my life, I'm a keen sailor, I've done a lot of swimming, cycling, and more recently running, I wouldn't necessarily say I am a sports person as such. I just enjoy being active. And like I say, I haven't come from a sporty background. I'm actually a physiotherapist. So I'll let Laura explain a bit about her.
Okay, so as I said, my name is Laura Riley. I currently head up the cycle programme and school events. I'll go right back to the start. So went to school in Jersey, always been a keen sports player in football, hockey, netball. I used to play as many different sports as I possibly could. Left school, did a bit of volunteering in some primary schools as a football coach. So I used to coach the football teams at Springfield Primary School. After that, I ended up going onto Highlands, didn't actually do sport, but always played and coached. Then decided to go to do a bit of travelling, and then I came back, and instead of going to university, I went to Spain to go to a college to become a personal trainer. It was an intense course, so I got the qualifications I needed there to come back then to work with children, is what I wanted to do. From there, I then began coaching in football for the JFA. I did that for around 12 years, I think, in the end. I then focused on coaching in schools. So I started working for sports development, which is now Jersey Sport. So I worked there for, I think, about 10 years, part of the PE team. So working in schools, delivering PE sessions to all different children. In between, I went and travelled. And then in 2011, I went to live in America to coach football again. I coached numerous different sports over there. So I lived over there for a year, which was great. I'd definitely recommend doing that if you're into sports coaching. Really, really good opportunity. Came back, carried on working for what was sports development, delivering in schools. Went back to America in 2015 to carry on delivering football mainly, but again, multi-sports. So I lived there again for a year. Came back again and carried on working for sports development, so a lot of travelling and working abroad in between. Delivered a lot of the physical literacy programmes that was up and coming, and then moved into a management role. So I managed the PE team, so that was quite a few years ago now. Learned a lot of new things taking on that role, obviously coming from being just a development coach to begin with, and got like going up the ranks almost. Did a couple of different qualifications on the way, to make sure that I had the qualifications to do that. Then I had a baby. First of all, we moved into Jersey Sport, went along with Jersey Sport as the physical literacy manager of that area, and coordinated all the school programs, which was really good. Then I had a baby, then I came back, and then recently, over the last 8 months maybe, I've taken on a new role, which is coordinating all the cycling within Jersey Sport, sorry. So something that, for me personally, I'm not a keen cyclist, but with my background, a lot of the coordinating and things for school, it was teaching children the basics and the foundations. So we teach, which was the old cycling proficiency, it's now called bikeability. So we go into primary schools and we deliver that to year 5 and 6 children. We also deliver balance bike sessions to the younger children, and more recently we did a launch of the Cycle Centre, which is we have 17 different adapted bikes up at Le Kennevet, and we run a lot of programmes for children and adults who potentially might have a need or a disability, to make sure that we can engage them in some cycling activities that they probably never would have been able to do before. So I work obviously with Kirsty on that, which is a really, really good programme, up and running at the moment, so I think it's going to develop and get a lot bigger. I think alongside that, We've got lots of different beginners programs, so for adults who can't ride bikes, for teenagers who can't ride bikes, so a lot of different programs trying to get children and adults cycling. Obviously it's a life skill, it's not, you know, playing for a football team that you might stop doing when you're 30, maybe 40, but cycling you can kind of do for a long period of time. We're trying to encourage more people to cycle to work and to cycle to school, obviously to make it better for our island. So that's the role that I've taken on at the moment, along with some school events that due to COVID aren't really happening at the moment, but in the future it will be school events such as cross countries, athletics tournaments and things like that, and making them bigger and better than they currently already are, and then introducing some other sports that are not common, so things like dodgeball tournaments and different areas, so then more children and adults can be included in those as well. So yeah, that's how I got to where I am today.
Perfect. So both primary and secondary school I went to Victoria College over here, and then all the way kind of through school I hadn't had any aspirations to get involved in sport. I played obviously first team football and cricket, and then rugby up till 16, and then sixth form continued football and cricket and binned off the rugby. I've probably not got as much life experience as these two oldies, but as I was coming up through, I was dead set on being a sports journalist. So even in my UCAS application, I put sport and English. I was keen to go to University of York to do English, and then at the time when I got my offers back, I decided to go down the sport coaching route. It was something that I'd taken up voluntary at Roselle, where I was playing football. So I'd run my own team since I was 15. So yeah, it was kind of quite sudden that I decided to go sport coaching route, and then went away to Liverpool John Moores University in 2016. Spent 3 years there, which was really good fun. Graduated with a first class honours in 2019, and all the way through that period from 15-16, I had a 0 hours job at Jersey Sport, which was previously sport development. So when I was coming back from university, reading weeks and stuff, I was working on the holiday camps or on the PE team as cover. And then having come back from university, as Laura mentioned, she was having a baby, so there was a maternity cover opportunity at Jersey Sport, which I went for and was luckily successful. So I took on managing the PE team for that 9-month period that Laura was off. And then when Laura came back, obviously around the coronavirus time, we had a little bit of a change in the organisation with the general manager leaving. So I was luckily again offered an opportunity to jump up a rung into the children and schools manager's position, which again is on a temporary basis at the moment. So quite whirlwind and quite quick. I haven't really known anything other than Jersey Sport or sport development as such, which is the basically same people and stuff like that. Obviously new people flitting in and out, but still a couple of the old guard knocking around too. So yeah, in terms of skills and how I got to where I am, it was very much doing it voluntary and having a passion and a love for it, which I didn't really realise until the fact where I had to choose between reading a lot of books or setting out some koans. So I chose the koans option, and then from then I've actually ended up putting away the koans and sitting behind a desk. So yeah, now I read as well. So it's a bit of both now.
And I think what we want to show is that actually you don't have to have been in sports to have ended up where we are. I think within our organisation, we have people working in schools, we have people working in the community, we've got a swim instructor team that also go out and do the Swim Safe programme. We have people working in disability and inclusion, and also in minority groups. You know, the prison, we're looking to start doing work with Mind Jersey, with the shelter, you know, lots of different people in society that maybe just to help them to become more sporty. We obviously work with the sports clubs and organisations. We've got, like these guys have said, within the schools and in all of the schools in the island. But we also have our health walks, and we have that spans kind of more elderly people, although we're wanting to start bringing in younger people and families. And the same with our bikes. Our bikes literally go from people that are in little children that are on balance bikes right the way up to really quite elderly, and now with our adapted bikes being able to get quite elderly people out onto bikes. We have our marketing team. We're currently advertising for an operations manager, so that's more business type related. So I think what this shows is that actually you might think, oh, I'd love to go and work in sport, but actually in order to work in sport, you don't always necessarily need to do a sports degree. You don't necessarily need to have coaching background, there might be actually other ways to do it. And sometimes I think getting a little bit of life experience, it can help as well in doing some of these roles. And even within our organisation, there's opportunities. We always like in our organisation to look at ways that we can develop people in-house and actually, so these guys have worked at a coach's level, but actually have worked their way up to more managerial posts. And, you know, and there are opportunities. We have historically run the sports leadership qualification, which we hope to do going forward. We are soon going to be rolling out some Dame Kelly Holmes Trust projects, which is a bit like a Princess Trust type things where people will learn some life skills and learn and get qualifications around that. But also we've got our coaching roles as well. And actually, if you've got an interest in a sport or in coaching, that, you know, it's really worth also getting involved with us. And I actually maybe thinking about holiday roles and if you're going off to university and so on. So, you know, it's worth going and looking at and really kind of looking at maybe thinking about it a little bit differently, that you don't necessarily need to have sport in order to be involved in sporting careers like we've ended up in. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. We'll take some questions.
Thank you very much. We have some good questions for you here. You've mentioned your different routes into these roles. However, can you suggest a qualification that would be beneficial for the roles you're in?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so in terms of the schools delivery, if you're looking to work PE in schools, we'd be looking for a level 2 qualification as a minimum. Obviously, some people might come in with a level 1 that we identify have got a real talent for it, and therefore, you know, we can be flexible and work with you to get your level 2. And I think the big thing from our schools delivery is that we're looking for diverse coaches, so you don't need to specialise in one sport. If you've got a couple of level 1s in loads of different sports, then that's absolutely great as well. So don't specialise too early. Try and get a diverse and wide range of qualifications if possible for the delivery roles.
Yeah, I think for my cycle team at the moment, none of them are qualified. The cycling qualifications are not as common as, say, the common like football, things like that. So we actually brought some trainers over from the UK, and once we had selected the people who we wanted to recruit, we trained them up after. So we knew, I think one of my members of staff is a gymnastic teacher, so that's obviously completely different. Another guy was a nurse for 8 years, but then had been working as a bike mechanic. And then the third person actually worked for Jersey Sport as a multi-sports coach in a variety of our programs. So the 3 members of staff that we recently recruited have come from completely different backgrounds, but they were the right candidates. So then we developed them, gave them all the cycling skills and all the training that they needed to take part in that job. So I think it completely depends on the job that you have. On the practical level, I would say level 1, we've had volunteers. So if you're like a younger person, maybe just coming out of school, we've had people coming in volunteering, getting in to see if they enjoy it. We then potentially help them to pass the level 1 qualification, which then would mean that they could get paid to come and be an assistant coach. And then from there, they would go up the ranks in different levels. And then we've had a lot of success stories where they've come through that kind of route and then ended up as part of the PE team. So then they've gained a level 1, gained a level 2, and now they're actually working as part of a PE team full time, which is obviously great because they've come from school at 16 years old, and the pathway that we've created, and someone like Elliot, for an example, has done that and has now gone up to the next level. So which is obviously a really good success story, and we've had quite a few of those within Jersey Sport. Yeah, absolutely. And with the adults team, we predominantly employ personal training, so level 2, level 3 qualified. Our GP referral program, our instructors are qualified up to a level 3 exercise referral instructor. But again, like Laura says, is we generally employed people at kind of level 2, and we've helped them go on to get their qualifications. And I think Laura's just touched on it, but really encourage you to get in contact with us about volunteering. We can take people volunteering from age 16 to 18, depending on the role. We are looking for walk leaders. We're looking for, we can have ride leaders working alongside with us at the Disability Cycle Centre. There's quite a few different roles that actually
you know, if you're kind of wondering, oh, maybe I might be interested in something like that, actually come and speak to us, because there might be something that you can come and get voluntary experience with us, which will help you make some decisions about what's the right thing for you.
Lovely, thank you. What's your biggest challenge working for Jersey Sport?
That's a great question.
Working with Laura.
I think one of our biggest challenges, so we just launched our Inspiring and Active Jersey strategy, and the challenge is we've got over 80% of adults and 40% of children, in fact the other way around, the other way around, are not meeting their physical activity levels that they should be in a week. And that's our biggest challenge, is actually, although around you might be looking around you and think, well, they're sporty, actually the reality is, if we look at our whole island as a big picture, there is a lot of pockets of sport, but actually as a whole island we really do need to increase our physical activity a lot. So our biggest challenge is how do we help people be more physically active? And that might only be 10 minutes in a day, and that's what we're asking people, 10 minutes a day to commit to doing. That's our biggest challenge. And I think the other challenge is, because so many people kind of can see that need, there's so many people that want to work with us and partner with us. So actually we've got so many opportunities that sometimes it's really hard to know which opportunities to take and not do, because we could be doing so much, but actually we've only got a certain amount of resources. And that's where volunteering and you know, we are going to be growing over the next couple of years as governments invest with us, and you know, corporates and charities and sponsors help us to grow. But I think that's probably one of our biggest challenges.
Yeah, I think from a school's point of view, obviously the big challenge is that we know the benefits of sport, but quite often the benefits of sport sometimes don't outweigh the benefits of maths and English and science and music. So sometimes sport's put at the bottom of the priority list, and that's not blanket across the board, but it's just the reality that some schools don't value it as much as others. So from our point of view, we know the work that needs to be done, but sometimes there's not enough hours in the day to get it done. So quite a big role of Jersey Sport at the moment, whether it's Laura with the cycling team or Dan with our PE team, or Martin with the swimming team, is that we're trying to get more and more hours. We can deliver more and more activities. We can start targeting those statistics, but also, you know, sport is preventative. It prevents a burden on the health service, prevents antisocial behaviour. Obviously we're creating jobs in it, so it helps the economy. So there's plenty of other benefits to sport. We just need more and more people to recognise that, and then we can start targeting those statistics as well.
Lovely. How do you feel that COVID has impacted sporting jobs in Jersey, and have you done anything that has helped the way you work?
Yeah, so COVID obviously dramatically changed the whole landscape. With regards to actual jobs, we've been very fortunate in Jersey Sport in that we had gained some government funding, which has allowed us to go on and recruit into roles. So in the last couple of months, we have recruited 3 new bike officers within Laura's team. We've also just recruited a disability and inclusion officer, and that's been during this time. I think with regards to how it's changed how we've worked, we as an organisation have been quite flexible. Obviously, all of our programmes initially closed down. Then very quickly the schools and community teams were mobilised, and I think it was 15 staff, didn't we have out in schools?
15 schools.
Yeah,
and
15 schools.
30
yeah.
odd staff. Yeah.
So we were supporting the schools in helping them to stay open during COVID for the essential workers and those children that were still going to school. So a number of our staff went to go and work there. Our CEO went to go and work within the States of Jersey Contact and Trace team to head that up. Some of my team went to the fire service, the ambulance service, and then what we did is we used the remainder of the staff to actually support islanders who were isolating, who were suddenly not able to come out to our classes, to our walks. And we put on Zoom classes, we were doing welfare calls to the 500 people that normally come to us. And then slowly as our programs opened, we then started to get people out again. So it's been a very big shift. We've now gone to flexible working, so we kind of choose between the office and home. So it's completely changed the landscape. but I think in many ways for Jersey Sport, we were really able to up our game and hopefully have shown our worth and been able to kind of be quite flexible in the way we worked and actually able to support the government and to support islanders during what has been an incredibly difficult time for everyone.
And what sporting achievement are you most proud of?
Probably your league winning last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, probably. My ladies football team won the league last year for the first time ever, so that's quite a big one. Yeah, I would say. And then playing for Jersey is always good. So when I played for Jersey back in the day, football, that was always obviously a really good thing.
Yeah, I had a relatively successful cricket season in 2019 and got in the domestic team of the year, so probably that one.
And I think mine's doing the London Marathon in 2018, having gone from a complete non-runner to being able to do a marathon in a year, less than a year. So I'm very proud of that.
Wow, you should all be proud. We've got another question here. What is the average salary within the sporting industry?
I think it completely depends on the area that you're working in, but within Jersey Sport we have different tier brackets. So you've got obviously different brackets for different levels of the roles. I probably couldn't give you an exact figure, but when coaches come in, like we say, from a school side of things, coaches come in, they'll be on, say, a level 1, which will be in a certain bracket of pay, and then they'll go up as their qualifications and experience goes up as well. Kirsty, from your side?
Yeah, no, I think that's it depends on people's levels and experience. It's in line with what you would expect in a competitive environment. So it's equitable and fair. So we have got a structure within Jersey Sport that basically as you go up the ladder, then that is reflected in your pay. But it really does depend on the role, experience. It's so many different things.
Some of you mentioned working abroad as part of your career. What was your favourite part of doing that?
Oh, that's a good question. I think just seeing different parts of the world, getting away from Jersey. I think that's not a bad thing, to see the world in a different light, and also learning new skills. So different places do things very differently, and so yeah, seeing the world, experiencing new cultures, meeting new people. And being able to come back. I think when you've grown up in Jersey, you have a very insular view sometimes, and we don't always see what's out there. We kind of see it on TV and on the internet, but actually when you go and live in those places, it's completely different. And you come back with a much better understanding that actually Jersey's quite a small little place in reality of the world, and there's much bigger and better things out there as well.
Yeah, I think definitely it would be definitely something that I would suggest that if you can do, definitely do it. I obviously went in 2 separate years and had an amazing experience. I met so many different people. I think what you learn so much from different places, different cultures. I lived in completely different places across America, maybe like 5 or 6 different places. And in the summers I travelled, and I lived with families, and then I lived with people that I didn't know. So I think it builds you as a person. All different skills, life skills as well, and kind of puts you in a position where you have to better yourself, you have to learn from other people, you have to kind of be involved with all these different people that you don't know until you get into that environment. So yeah, I would definitely, if you can go, I'd definitely say try and get away as much as you can.
Lovely. And last question, who's the best at keeping uppies?
Definitely not me.
Definitely not Dan Garton.
Yeah, not Dan Garton. The camera would be in danger if he was here. I'd probably put myself up there.
I'll go with Elliot.
Bro, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.